first arrive, they're gonna come in a box. And depending on which grower you get them from, they typically come 32 a box. And as you can see, they're packed in here pretty tightly. And they've got plastic wrapped around them. And then you can also see that they're not dry in the box. They do have a little bag with water at the bottom. So as soon as possible, like literally as soon as you get your flowers in from your wholesaler or grower or wherever you get them from online, you need to immediately bring them inside to room temperature air. You don't want them outside when it's freezing, and you don't want them outside when it's burning hot, because they will immediately pretty much start the process of dying, and we want the process of blooming. So now let me show you a trick that I have learned with hydrangeas that not many people will tell you, as well as a tip to keep your hydrangeas in tip-top. Okay, so the next step is going to be the tip I wanted to give you guys. So you're probably wondering what the heck is going on. As you can see here, I've got some hydrangeas in my spa tub. I like to use my spa tub because it allows me to get pretty much all my hydrangeas in at the same time versus a multiple amount of buckets. Now, obviously, if you don't have a huge tub or a huge bucket, you can use, a huge tub, then you can just use a couple of huge buckets or just several small ones. But you want to use something really large so you don't end up squishing the head of the hydrangea. So you can see we have our box of hydrangeas here. All I'm doing is taking them out. What I like to do is, you can see here, is the tip has, like I was showing you guys earlier, there's that bag of water, and then there is, it's tied with a rubber band. What I like to do is to cut this part off. My trash can's over there. That way you have a fresh stem to use. And then with the plastic, you don't want to pull this way, because then you're going to squish the head of the hydrangea. So it's wider at the top, so you're just going to pull it downwards, throw it away, and stick the whole thing in the hydrangea. When I first put it in, I like to submerge it and then just let it float. And you're probably wondering, okay, well, why is this happening? A fact you guys might not know about hydrangeas is that hydrangeas drink from the top. They don't drink from the stem like most flowers. Reason being is it's extremely dense inside here. There's not a lot of water that goes through the stem. So what you want to do is soak them anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes in lukewarm room temperature water when you first get the hydrangeas. This will give you the best chance for them to soak up as much hydration as possible so that their blooms are big and fluffy. So what you'll see right now is that they're kind of nice and small. And then after we drench them and go to step 2, which I'll tell you guys in just a second, and then wait 24 hours, then you'll be able to see how they fluff up. So I've cut it. So now what I'm gonna do is just do this with all 60 hydrangeas that I've ordered. Okay, so when you first get your flowers, they're going to be wrapped in plastic like this. So the first thing you want to do is remove the plastic. And as I said in the beginning of this video, processing flowers is a process. It is not as easy as just sticking them in water. You want to make sure you do it the right way. So I actually took the wrong rubber band off. You want to keep on, don't do what I just did. You want to keep the rubber band that's on the stems on, but the one I wanted to remove was the one that's holding the plastic together. So first remove the plastic. All right. Then you want to make sure you have a good set of gloves. Now I don't mean your plastic gloves or just any old regular gloves. You want utility gloves, the ones that can, the industrial strength. So basically you're getting something to protect your hands from all the thorns that come on many types of roses. I'm not sure if you can see, but there's quite a few very pointy thorns there. So once you get the plastic off, you don't run and start to unravel all of them, okay? There is a hydration process for roses as well. So the first thing you want to do is remove as much possible leaves and greenery as you can that you can see. You're not going to be able to get all of them because obviously it's tied together and there's ones on the in-between. But you mainly want to get the ones that are hanging over on the side that can fall into the water. You do not want the leaves and greenery falling into the water because it can cause bacteria and start to wilt your flowers for them to die. This is why there's a process to doing it. So what I just do is keep flipping it around and I'm just grabbing whatever I can. You mainly want to get the ones that are at the bottom because you do not want anything touching the water that is the leaves. You typically have about 2 to 3 inches of water that you'll go through. What I like to do is kind of bang them like this to see if there's any loose leaves that will fall over time. All right, and once I think I've got enough, and when you're pulling them, you want to pull in a downward position. So you don't want to pull up. You want to grab it and pull in a downward position. So I grab it and then I pull going down. And I think I've gotten as much as I'm going to be able to get. We will get the rest in the next step. Alrighty. I think I'm just about satisfied. Take my gloves here and carefully grab the few I see down here, trying to avoid the thorns. I do not recommend this, especially if this is your first time doing this. I have done this a few times, and yes, I've cut myself many times, but I've done this quite a few times, and so I'm kind of used to knowing how to do it. So I just kind of wanted to get these little leaves that I'm seeing trapped in the middle because those will fall into the water, and I do not want that to happen. Alrighty. Yeah, see, those were kind of in there and loose. Let's get this last one. I see you trying to hide from me. Okay. Now you can see it's a little bit cleaner. We had all of this greenery that we took off the bottom. So now let's start process 2. What you're going to do, so once you have taken all of the greenery off, don't grab it by the bottom because you can see those live, very pointy thorns. So I typically grab it at the bottom right here. And then we're going to put them here. So you can see I'm already gone through quite a bit. Let me get this small one out the way. Okay, so the process I just showed you is what I did to all 6 of these. Next up we have what's called spray roses, which is basically really mini roses where there's several blooms to one stem. So this is a little bit different. What we're going to do, these kind of so you guys can see, is I'm going to loosen up the plastic, but I'm not going to take the plastic off. And as a matter of fact, where did that rubber band go? I'm going to need to put that back on. What I like to do is when the garden roses come tightly bundled like this, I like to remove this part, but keep them together in the plastic. This just allows them to breathe better. However, I still want them to stay controlled. So I'm not going to do it really tight. I just want to make sure this is nice and loose so they can breathe. So I am going to put the rubber band back on, not extremely tight, just enough to hold the plastic around like that so that they're loose, so you can see the difference when they're tight like that, when they're loose like this, they can bloom. And then I'm gonna take my shears and just cut off about 1 inch of stems at a 45-degree angle. As you can see, it's at an angle. And then you're gonna stick it in your water. That's it with the garden roses. Just make sure it's not tightly bundled like this, but that they can't go flopping over, which is why you wanna keep the plastic. As you can tell, they've already kind of started opening up just by loosening it. So that's how you work with spray roses. Okay, so I've been letting the hydrangeas soak for almost close to 45 to 50 minutes. This is the second batch. So now I'm gonna be done with the hydrangeas once this part is done. But once you get them all nice and soaked, then what you're gonna do is kind of let the water kind of come off, and you can see that it's nice and wet and hydrated. And then I'm going to cut about 1 inch off at an angle. I don't like to take all of the leaves off, but I do take the really big ones off that are at the bottom, because the leaves take up a lot of the water that doesn't get to the flower from the stem. So I do take the bigger leaves off and I leave the smaller leaves on. And then I'm gonna put it in my bucket of water here. And I'm just gonna continue to do that. All right, now that our roses have been hydrating for 4 to 6 hours, yes, you heard me correct. That step 1 I showed you, you need to leave it in the water hydrating for 4 to 6 hours. This is what I mean by processing. So once you reach that point, you're gonna take the cardboard wrapping off of the roses to expose them. And then what you're gonna wanna do is go ahead and remove that rubber band, and we're going to first de-thorn them. So I have got my shears here and my rose de-thorner. It's a little clip thing with a blade. You just put it at the top of the stem and bring it down the stem to cut off all of the leaves. So you can see I'm gonna put it at the top and then just shake it down, and then boom, there go all the thorns and leaves off so easily. And now my hands won't get pricked when I bring them down the stem. Look how this rose has totally opened up. You remember it was such a tight bud. Now look how it has opened up. So for those who keep wondering why your roses don't open, it means you haven't let them hydrate. So now we're just gonna go through this entire bouquet and de-thorn every single rose and cut about another inch off and stick it in floral bucket of water. One thing I do want to tell you about as you're de-thorning them is you also want to pull off the guard petals, which is these small little petals that are usually of some discoloration that are usually at the bottom. There's anywhere from 1 to 3 on each rose. You'll notice the color is different, the texture is different, and it usually looks a little shriveled up. So you just want to peel that off on the bottom. Those are just guard petals and you don't need them. That way your rose looks as fresh as possible. Look at that spiral, and that's just after 4 to 6 hours of hydrating. Absolutely beautiful. Now, once your flowers have processed, they will look absolutely gorgeous for your bouquets and your centerpieces. Until next time, I'm Behind the Design.